Be recorded.
There you go.
Started.
It's now being recorded. Thank you.
So calling this meeting to order. Let's call the roll again, just so it's on record, please. Dr. Hemmon,
Mark Pellegrino,
present.
Wayne Anderson, Robert Hankinson,
Present.
Jennifer Plavin,
Present.
Bob Schwartz,
Present.
Mark Hawk.
Present.
I think I've got everybody, and I know who else is present. I'll mark it on the sheets.
Perfect. Do I hear a motion to approve minutes
So
for
moved.
March 2nd? Thank you, Bob.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer. Do I hear any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, let's put the matter to a roll call vote. Dr. Hemmon, please call the vote roll.
Mark Pellegrino,
Yes.
Wayne Anderson's not here. Robert Hankinson,
Yes.
Jennifer Plavin,
Yes.
Bob Schwartz,
Yes.
Mark Hawk.
Yes.
And I don't see the Mayor Nicholson's not here, so, okay, we're all set. That's a vote.
Excellent. From what I understand, there's no bills or orders, correct?
Correct.
All right, so we'll move to item number 4, which is the report from the OPM.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I'm going to share my screen. It looks like the host is still disabled.
Brenda, would you mind enabling that, please?
There we go. Okay, this is just our finance, our budget for the project. And again, we're just tracking our budget over on the left, what's been invoiced to date. And really the two columns on the far right are what's been, or what we think will be deemed eligible by the MSBA and what the grant reimbursement has been. So our budget hasn't changed at all. We still have our total budget of 89.5 million. To date, though, we've been invoiced about $45.6 million, of which we've estimating that just over 29 million would be eligible for reimbursement. And then based on the city's reimbursement rate, we would be getting back just over 23.2 million in reimbursement. So 23.3, we'll call it, out of the 45.6. So just about a 50-50 of what's been spent to date is what we're anticipating to be reimbursable. But overall, the project finances we're in good shape. Things are going well. We do have, again, a number of PCOs to bring forward today, but we're in good shape moving forward with contingencies and all of our other different line items.
Okay. Any updates on the construction that you want to mention?
Let's see. They're pretty much finished with the standing seam roof in Building A. They've started. The consultant for the audiovisual, Scott Goodrich, his Pro AV, has started installing the the projectors in Building A. Well, I should say the projector mounts. The projectors are on already. Pardon me. Most of the painting is done. I would say by the end of the week, beginning of next week, the third floor will start. They'll start working on the casework up there. They're just finishing up on the second right now. Well, pretty much most of the tile work is done in there. A couple of weeks, they're going to be starting flooring, finished flooring. Plumbing, by the end of this week, they'll probably have all the bathrooms plumbed, the gang bathrooms, and that's pretty much all of them at this point. And they're working on sealing all the various things that poke through the ceiling tile, like sprinkler heads and fire alarm, strobes and hi-hat lights and things like that. Building B, they are currently installing the mud for the walk-in coolers for the tile, the quarry tile that we approved, that you guys approved the last time around. Putting up the plastic wall covering in the kitchen area on the exterior walls for washability. Ductwork in the gym, I'm sorry, ductwork in the cafeteria. Sheetrocking the receiving area, because that apparently is going to get cleared out and used to store the elevator equipment. So they're getting that ready to clean up a bit. A little bit of sheetrock, odds and ends down on the first floor, not much. Second floor, mostly it's bathroom tile, some taping, odds and ends with sheetrock. It's pretty much the same on the third floor. They're working on tile in the bathrooms and sheetrocking and taping. Building C, second floor, finish coat painting. First floor, they're priming, maybe getting to the first coat of paint. Exterior, we've got brick and block has started, is ongoing now. They've started on the west side of building C. Most of the gym block is complete, and they're also working again on the front, to the left of the front entrance in B building with that corduroy style kind of brick. And storefront frames, almost probably the end of this week, the frames will be complete on the AB connector, and they're going to start with installing glass. That's the gist of it. A little bit of site work going on. National Grid's been there. I believe they probably completed pulling cable from the transformer all the way to the telephone pole on Pearl Street. And they've started installing fence posts along the retaining walls.
Nice.
And then odds and ends with Marois themselves. That's about it.
Great. Thank you for that. Any
You're welcome.
questions for the OPM?
I guess I would also
Okay.
add, Mark,
Oh,
that
yeah.
they're roughly, I was talking to the contractor today, they're still targeting our original substantial completion date of mid-July. They're ahead in some areas, behind in some others, but nothing drastic. The main thing is just that we still have, we get all the materials that we're expecting timely. Some of the breakers on the main switchgear are back ordered. We're expecting them in May, but if something like that were to get delayed, that might impact us. But things are looking good. Knock on wood.
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you very much, Tim. All right, very good. So if there's no more questions for the OPM, let's
have.
move on. Oh, yes, go ahead, Bob.
Are we on National Grid Power yet?
No,
Mid-May is what the target is.
What
National Grid
happened in
just,
February? Well,
well,
we couldn't pour the concrete till later, yeah.
but
You're talking
Matt,
May?
National Grid just came out this week and started pulling their wires, their primaries. And then Griffin Electric was waiting on some equipment so that they could pull their secondaries into the switch gear. So once the primaries are completed and they have the transformer in and ready to go, they can bring everything in from the transformer to the main switch gear in the building. And they're anticipating that in mid-May. So another, let's say, a month from now.
What a shame. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the OPM? Okay, so let's hear the bad news from the architects about change orders.
My turn is up. So the PCO narrative has gone out to folks, and we have a few more that I've added onto the bottom here that we just received this morning after our meeting with Bacon. But we'll start at the top. 148, add thresholds to select aluminum doors. This was a coordination issue between sheets, and that the hardware sets did not include a threshold. It was included elsewhere in the set, but it would have required additional coordination that they did not do. So to add the thresholds under some of the aluminum doors is $2,601. 152, maybe we'll come back to at the end. This is one where we have rejected this one twice. Limo, who is the subcontractor installing these glass fiber reinforced concrete panels on the outside of the building, has asked us to come back to the building committee with this again. I think I'm going to say that one for the end. Is that okay with folks? Tim, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
All right, well, let's go through some of the more direct ones first. 217, add tile to west wall of kitchen. I'm just putting this one on there to let you know that we're denying this one. We think that we marked it clearly in the floor plans. There's a little bit of confusion with the finish schedule, but the floor plan should govern. So we denied this one. We'll see what happens with that. Add Corey tile to floor of walk-in cooler is $16,417. This is a requirement for the health code for being able to clean out that space. It was marked on the food service plans, but not on the architectural. And the tile filed sub bidder was not forced to look at the food service plans. So that's the reason for this add of 16,417. 224 is a pretty small one, but this is for the shower that goes in the health suite. It has a flange on it, so there's no way to even tell that from the shop drawings even, but we have to kind of push the shower a little bit into the room for proper installation. Luckily, it doesn't create other issues in terms of accessibility or anything like that, but they did have to change the location of the drain pipe. So that's 789. Relocating the custodial sink in B200A, that's shown here. We did include a new hose cabinet on that exterior wall. So we had to push the custodial sink in, a change of 1,483. 236, I think we've talked about before. There was a workshop that was planned to go in on the second floor of the B wing. And the district determined that it was much better use of space to turn that into 3 separate rooms, a hallway, and then an office, and then a small a closet or maybe even a testing room. Unfortunately, that had quite a few changes in terms of the HVAC system and fire suppression and lighting, etc. We tried to simplify it as much as we could and reuse door frames even that were delivered to the site. So we tried to simplify it as much as we could, but that's still a change of $42,753. 237 is to add a, I'm forgetting if they finally went with steel or aluminum. I think it's an aluminum edging between the pavers and the asphalt. We did include a detail of edging between the pavers and landscape, but Bacon is claiming that was not applicable to this condition of pavers against asphalt. It's highly recommended in that consistent kind of L bracket of edging keeps all the pavers locked in together. And really helps with long-term future maintenance requirements. So adding that edging between the pavers and the asphalt is 3,166. PCO 238 is for the kind of art wall under the monumental stair, right as you come into the building in the B wing. We changed it to a large vinyl graphic from a local photographer. And then on the side, we have some tile and another smaller sign that says Gardner Elementary School. The majority of this cost is for the vinyl graphic, but a little bit for the tile and the sign as well. This comes to $10,441. 243 is a similar condition with the pavers, but this time it's a new curb that's being added, not a little aluminum edge. Same condition though, this comes to $4,772. 247 is an interesting one. They're basically requesting that we provide HVAC valves to isolate each wing of the building, the A wing, the B wing, and the C wing. It's going to help with meeting the schedule. I can't tell you how much we focused on the schedule during our weekly meetings with the contractor, and constantly asking about material delays and doing our best to try and come up with substitutions and other ideas on how to speed up the process. So this was one of those ideas. It also has the added benefit of really helping being able to isolate the wings, which has some long-term maintenance implications. So we're recommending approval on this PCO 247. 251 is another one that we just wanted to let you know about. As you know, we've had considerable issues with the testing of the windows. We are grateful that that is all behind us. They have tested, they've passed the tests, and they're moving forward. So we wanted to be very careful on how we answered this PCO, which is specifically about changing the sealant at the A-wing windows. Our response is basically that there was a number of tests that they should have done on site to make sure that the materials were compatible. They did not do any of those. And so that we feel that the cost of fixing the windows should not be a cost borne by the owner. So we denied this PCO for $16,803. We just did that earlier this week, maybe the very end of last week. Just wanted to let you know of that. 257 is a deduct, and this one, there will be some additional adds. Basically, there were some changes to the landscape drawings in terms of the play equipment. Once we figured out the fall areas from the play equipment, and also from just ongoing discussions with the district on how best to program these outside areas. So first, we got a bunch of very large PCOs for making those landscape changes. I really want to give credit to Mark Hawk and Wayne, who were able to meet with us and our landscape consultants and talk through them. We were able to give Bacon a final direction that cut a lot of those adds as much as we could. So I'm predicating this. This is a deduct right now because we reduced the size of a few swings. This is important to approve so that they can order those swing sets, which have a long lead time. But I just want to let you know that there will be some other adds. I think that the net will be that it will be an add from all of the changes. I hope that it's relatively small, but this is kind of part of that larger package. So that was the draft of what you've seen already. Let me quickly just go through these items and then we can go back up to the top. 249 is to add a soffit in A317. This was basically, it was easier to change a ceiling than to change a door frame that included a transom. And so we stepped the ceiling up to accommodate that transom, even though the ceiling has to be lower elsewhere in the room because of mechanical above it. 252 is an interesting one. We have one type of toilet that is fastened. It's a wall-mounted toilet, but it happens to be of a size where it sits both against the wall and against the floor. And so has to get kind of squeezed tight to both of those surfaces. We have a curved metal Schluter between our floor and our wall. And so the toilet cannot sit tight against the floor and the wall because that curved surface intersects with the toilet. So what the only kind of solution we could come up with is to very carefully grind the bottom corner of the toilet. Again, it's a very large base, and so it's just where the right now it's a very sharp corner, and so if we can grind that off and make it a little bit more of a mitered corner, then it fits right against the floor and the wall just fine. This is not all the toilets in the building, but there's a significant number of them. It will void the warranty on the toilet itself. We're not as concerned about that because usually that's not where warranty issues come from the china, the toilet bowl itself, but from the plumbing or how it was installed, and that will still be under the standard 1-year warranty from the contractor. So we are recommending approval for this one for $4,955. 254, I don't know much about, maybe Wayne, you know more, but we deleted a chip seal asphalt coating. We decided that it was not necessary at an on-site landscaping meeting. So that's a credit of $5,038. 256, we've been looking at our letters that we have aluminum letters, Gardner Elementary School, that were going to go along the front of the canopy. The type of the lettering would have to change for that type of an installation from what we carried in our specifications. And the price of aluminum has shot through the roof. They also were going to have to add additional aluminum framing to the canopy to support those letters, which were going to be quite heavy. And so that change was coming in at around $16,000, $17,000, which seemed incredibly excessive to everybody involved. So we worked on a different solution. We think that we can mount them to the wall of the building. It will still be visible from the vast majority of the parking lot in front. I think it'll still look great. And so it's a much smaller change of $3,143. We're asking for a not to exceed, as we still have a few questions on this PCO. We just got it this morning, but if it won't go up, it would only go down. And then finally, a very small one, again, from the sign company. We increased the size of some of our classroom signs so that it can say classroom along the top, have the braille underneath that says classroom, have the room number, but that there's an area of a whiteboard finish, which was always included, but wasn't quite large enough with all of those other components. So the signs got a little bit bigger. So it was a very small increase, but since there's 60 of these signs, they're asking for $573 for that change. That was a lot. Are there any questions on the PCOs that I've covered so far? Great.
On
Go ahead, Bob.
238, the graphics on the outwall, we're eliminating the original concept of the students painting circles or something?
Yes,
Okay. How come?
the impossibility of getting it done between COVID, between getting new trees, between drying the trees, between cutting the circles, between coordinating with the teachers to get students to paint them, and then the installation, among other things.
Okay.
I think it was a case, Bob, of best of intentions, and I think expectations got a little bit too high, unfortunately.
The good news is we're using a picture from Norman Beauregard. That's going to be, I don't know what to call it, Christian, but artist up.
It's
to,
been filtered a little bit, so it
filter.
feels a little bit like you're within the, we're hoping that it feels kind of like you're within the landscape that he took, but it's a great photo and it's local to Gardner and a local photographer, and I think it's going to look great.
It will.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Let me go back up to this one on the GFRC panel. So they're basically like long boards that happen to be made out of glass fiber reinforced concrete. And so we're stuck in a tough position where we're not sure what manufacturer we're going to get for that specific product during the design portion. So basically, we didn't really show them how to connect it to the building. We just said in our specifications that all necessary wall reinforcements, cleats, clips, hangers, and accessories are required. I guess we showed them how to attach it to the building. We didn't show them exactly how many times each board needed to be fastened to the building. We had a typical detail of, where the insulation and the vapor barrier and how to attach it, but we didn't get into those nitty-gritty details because we don't know which manufacturer they're going to choose to carry in their bid. On the flip side, we've now had a meeting with Limo, and Tim, definitely chip in if you think I'm misrepresenting this, but from their position, they feel that here was this product that was included in the specs in a typical installation. each board needs to be fastened to the building in 3 different locations. And so that's what they carried in their bid. Once they got the bid, then they had more specific engineering done by the company that they chose, Okoskin, which was our basis of design. We're very glad that they chose the company that they did. But once they did the full engineering and realized the wind loads, they actually need to be attached in 4 locations per board. And so they submitted this PCO for the LIMO cost is $22,707 for those additional cleats that are needed all the way around the building. This happens a lot at the B wing in particular. We had some discussions with them. Our position was nothing has changed from the bid documents. The wind loads were always included in there. We didn't want a different staggering pattern, or we didn't request that they be anchored more often than was necessary. And so we didn't see why it should be an add. On the flip side, I also understand it from their point that in the time that they have for the bid period, to go through the cost and the time of having it fully engineered when you don't know you're actually going to win the bid would be difficult on their part. So they asked that we bring this to the building committee. They did say that we thought they would cut it down a little bit more. We pushed pretty hard. They did offer to cut down their cost from $22,700 down to $20,000, but that $22,000 number was already cutting it pretty close to the bone, and they didn't feel that they could offer much more of a reduction than that. So we offered that we would take it to the finance subcommittee and see how it went from there.
Mr. Chairman, if I could voice an opinion, I would say I really object to this. In my experience, I would say the words of the specification, which say it needs to be attached, take precedence over a typical detail. And I just feel like this is one more example of the contractor trying to pick up what he left on the table.
My question is, correct me if I'm wrong, did the bid specifications say to assume, and assume is not the right word, that you're going to need to fasten each panel 3 times to the building?
No, and we didn't give them any numbers, so we didn't say once or twice or 3 times or 4 or 5. We just said all necessary wall reinforcements.
But Christian, what we did give them, I believe, is wind load information, things like that, that could be taken into account, and them being a, experienced contractor at this type of installation and past experience, maybe in their mind, they should be capable to know that, oh, wait a second, these conditions I've had to use 3 before or 4 or whatever. I'm just, I'm on the fence with this one.
Yeah,
quite frankly.
yeah. I mean,
Christian, I appreciate your point, Christian, where you can see both sides as a designer, but I'm really concerned that our representative who's protecting the city interests, what his position is on where we should be. I really think he should be looking out for our interests, not seeing both sides.
You referring to me?
No, I was referring to Tim, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on this one, I there's a lot of times there's gray in this, and you're trying to get your building the way you want. We go through a lot of pains during design to make sure we're on budget, and then we don't want to be giving away stuff during construction that we put a lot of effort in. Maybe we would have gone with something more significant or different had we had the money, but we couldn't. Well, in this case, he's saying that he didn't have time to investigate it during the bid period. And as Matt indicated, if you were doing this on the Cape where there's wind load criteria, you're in a hurricane zone, you need to do that. And as a installer of this product, if he knows that, hey, on a building, typically we have a certain wind load, 60-mile-an-hour wind load or whatever it is, and he saw that on this one, well, it's at 80 or whatever it happens to be, that's different. It's incumbent upon him to take a look at that. The reason that they started down this road with talking about this is that the contractor was trying, he saw that the rendering showed the staggered pattern of these boards, if you will. And so in order to get a staggered pattern, he was thinking that he would need an additional structure behind it. So in one aspect, I think he's trying to do the right thing and looking at a rendering, which really, isn't part of the contract documents to, assume design. But I think that's where he got messed up. Instead of looking at the wind load, he was looking at the drawing to see what the aesthetic was supposed to be. So what, in our conversation with them, they said that they reached out to the manufacturer and asked them, hey, can you with this thickness, this type of panel, can you adhere it at 3 foot on center? And the contractor said, yeah, or the manufacturer said, yes, you can. Well, once they did the wind loads, they realized they needed to do it on 2 foot on center. So I was hoping that that we could come to some sort of agreement on something on a price, but I told them that, look, I don't think that we can support this. And when the committee asks for our opinion, we're going to have to tell them that, that we don't agree with it and that we'll direct you to do the work. If they had come back and said, hey, this is what happened, we understand that maybe we didn't pick it up, but these are our numbers that we used. Maybe in good faith, you meet them in the middle. But for $2,000 or $2,700 that they're going to lower their price, I don't think that, you just don't know. Maybe all the other bidders carried for fasteners per panel, and that's why this guy was the low guy. You just don't know. And without having information like that, it's hard to kind of go back, and as much as you want to be a nice guy and because you think he's trying to do a good job for you, and all their work has been in the field has been good. I just don't have any kind of documentation to show me that to change my opinion of what the contract says, I guess. So I'm not saying that we should split it, or I was hoping that they would come back with maybe a more reasonable offer, because sometimes these things can destroy kind of or erode the working relationship you have on a project. And if this hangs out there and we have to go to court on this or something, then there's money spent there too. So but at this point, I would say my recommendation would be to not accept it, direct them to do the work. And if they want to do it under protest and bring it up as a issue at the end of the project, then we have specific guidelines in our contract for how to go about doing that.
Can I just make a general statement? And Tim, you hit upon it when you said the working relationship with the contractor. And what I have to say is that as a member sitting on a subcommittee, I have no sense of that working relationship. And I depend really heavily on you as our representative to express that to us. So I can get the feeling personally whether the contractor is taking advantage of us, or are we working in fear over the fact that he's going to make a claim over supply chain issues at the end of the contract. So I appreciate what you just said, because it gives me a much better handle on how I feel about this particular issue, which is I'm negative to approving it. So thank you.
Sure. I mean, and I agree with you. I can't necessarily recommend that you go down that route and approve it even at a reduced cost, because I think there's not enough to show that that there was any kind of culpability on the owner's side. You know, it's one of these ones that's not crystal clear, but certainly I think more on the contractors. You know, if you didn't have the information during the bid, you should have said something or asked a question, or, you know, hey, I'm sorry, but you gave us a number and we need to use that number.
So I don't recall, but if we don't already, I'll make a motion to approve this sans the number 152. And perhaps Tim or Christian or whomever could reach out and just let them know that we denied it. But if they do want to come back and say, look, here's my numbers, here's how I came up with this for my bid and what I carried, you know, and really prove their case, then we may reconsider it. But I'm with Bob and Tim and everyone else on this, that
Me too.
I don't see it.
I have a question for Alan. If this
Go ahead.
thing,
This way.
if this goes to arbitration, is this a winner or a loser in your professional opinion?
I left my black robe in the other room. So I'm not really sure how it's going to come about. I have to agree with Tim, who has a great deal more, and Matt, a great deal more construction experience than I have. But these are big boys. They bid it, and they should have known. And if they didn't know, they should have asked questions. So I don't think that they can substantiate their position on this, from my opinion.
Also, if I could piggyback on what I said originally, not only should Limo have been able to get a sense from the information we provided, like the wind loads and so forth, and based on their experience, the fact that they went to the manufacturer, who's the guy who's going to engineer this, and we have to assume gave them, and if they didn't, shame on them, gave them all the criteria, and they still came back and said, oh yeah, no, you only need to do it at 3 feet. Well, sort of shame on them for not having a better handle on, if they can't have a good gut feeling on what you're supposed to do, how do you expect the contractor to do it? So I think maybe the manufacturer probably did wrong by them, gave them some bad information. But again, they should have known too.
Yeah, I agree with Matt that most likely the manufacturer did the takeoff for the drawings. It's up to Limo to confirm what the manufacturer, but most manufacturers will do the takeoff and give the numbers to all those subcontractors or that particular trade. So I agree with Matt. It's probably with the manufacturer and Limo got caught.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Motion's on the table. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Excellent, thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All right, hearing no discussion. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So the motion is exclude 152 and everything else.
Exclude 152, yes.
Exclude 152 and approve everything else, yes.
Okay. Just
Christian,
wanted to clarify.
do you have a number on that, by the way? What the number would be?
$5.49.
Let me try real quick. I'm afraid it didn't go down that much, but
Is it 123.66?
52 would be gone. I have 96,285. Let me try and double check that while you're discussing.
Well, we're ready to take a vote. I just feel we do need a positive number. What is that number? That'll be change order number 15, I think.
Yeah, I believe you're right, Steve.
And then that change order would be presented to the full committee on the meeting, we're meeting on the 27th, and remind me, I gotta talk to you about approving some bills.
I have 9685.
That's
9685 I have also.
instead of 114,766. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Mark, could you say the number again? Mark, where is it again?
90,685.
Thank you.
Does that include the ones that Christian added, though, that wasn't on the original? Okay.
I don't know.
Christian's working hard. I can see him there, figuring it out.
That number sync up with yours, Christian?
I don't know why mine's a bit different, but I have 96,285. And that's between my spreadsheet and my Word document, so maybe I just translated
Well,
the number.
What's the cost of the additional ones that you added on recently?
1967, 4955, a deduct of 5038, 3143, and 573.
So what does that equal?
The additional numbers are coming to 5,600.
And what's the difference between your number and Mark's number?
5,600.
400. It was 96,285 and 96,685, right?
That's the difference. 96,285 would be the number with those others that Chris
Right.
just mentioned.
Okay, so 96,285 is the number.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay. So let's put the matter to a roll call vote, please.
Mark Pellegrino,
Yes.
Wayne Anderson,
Yes,
Robert Hankinson,
Yes.
Jennifer Plavin,
Yes.
Bob Schwartz,
Yes,
Mark Hawk.
Yes.
It's a vote, Mr. Chairman. We'll present at the full committee meeting that change order for that amount, 96,285, number 15, for final approval with the full building committee.
Excellent. So let's move forward. Perfect. Is there any old business, new business, or other business to come before the subcommittee?
Mr. Chairman, just mentioning, we talked earlier today, we talked about a time capsule. We've talked about that before. And part of it is preparation. Where would they put the time capsule? And I didn't, since we got this committee, do we want something that we want to pursue? That they could open up in 50 to 100 years later? I mean, what do we want to see a time capsule? A lot of times at the dedication or something opening, they do a time capsule and it gets sealed or something like that. But I don't know if they.
well, if they open it in 100 years, Steve, they'll be digging through the rubble to find it.
Well, 75 years, who knows? But again, that's a decision we can bring up at the full committee, but I didn't want people think a good idea to have it. And it was discussed, they're gonna have the plaque, but not near the plaque, it would be some other place. Where was the suggestion? Somebody, Christian, this morning, someone suggested, or Matt?
Under
Stair
the
three was the
under the
suggestion.
monumental stair, Steve, there's kind of a blank area that gets walled in on all three sides. And it seems like a good spot for a time
We're
capsule.
lucky to release a pandemic in 50 to 75 years, so
Yeah,
I'm a no vote.
All right.
maybe I can be buried there.
Okay, so that's something for us to chew on. So thank you very much, Dr. Hammond.
Second is our meeting
Yep.
for the full committee is on the 27th, because normally we meet the 20th, which is during vacation. I would request that I could get members, I need 3 members that I'm going to be getting the invoices in around the week of around the 13th, 14th, or 15th. we get them on a warrant, but I would need to have authorization from this committee to say 3 people that could authorize that payment. Otherwise, it'd be way into the next month. So we put them on a warrant and then we get 3 people to say yes, that authorize the payment.
Our finance committee will do that. I mean, between Jennifer and I and Wayne, we'll do that.
Okay, all right. Now, finance committee of this, of what?
Of this committee.
Okay, that's fine. The 3 of you, then fine, then I will contact the 3 of you to have final, to approve that once I get them all in.
We don't need a vote to approve them to do this, right?
No,
No.
no. I just
No.
wanted to
Okay.
make sure, I want it on a record that they're gonna, the 3 are gonna approve it because of the meeting's it's gonna be the 27th, so. Then we're releasing several million dollars, so I want to make
Yep.
sure we have proper approvals.
I
Yep,
think-
very good.
Brent, the other thing is though, it's still listed on our calendar as being on the 20th for the school building committee. So Brenda, you'll just have to change that.
Okay, it'll be the 27th at 4 o'clock normal time.
Also, Tim, are we going to be reviewing DCAM, those DCAM ratings? I believe I sent the sheet in. Or is that going to be held off to the next one? That's another 3 weeks.
So why don't we talk about it and then we can send it in for people to take a look at, and then we can maybe get approval on it at the next time. But all the filed subbidders and the general contractor get certified through DQM. And halfway through a project, we have to give them a score to give them a sense of how they're doing on the project. And DQM has a form that we have to fill out. Contractor gets rated on a number of different categories, and they have to get a score of 80 points in order to have a passing grade. At the end of the project, we do the same exact exercise, but these ones actually count. And these actually can get sent into DQM. And if a contractor receives 3 failing grades from different projects within a certain amount of time, they lose their DQM certification to be able to do public work. So it's important that we submit these things. The MSBA requires that we submit at 50%, and they don't really want to know what the different scores in the various categories. They just want to make sure that you did it. And again, the 50% one doesn't count other than to send a message to the contractor of where they stand. So Matt and I have gone through all the filed subbidders and have come up with scores and for the GC and provided scores. And we can send out a tally of what each filed subbidder has received. And then maybe at the next meeting, we can kind of talk about it. Because then we have to send out to each contractor the score they got. And then we have to meet with a lot of them because they don't like their score and they want to talk about it and see what they can do better and all that kind of stuff. But we're in the, we're right around that 50% mark. So we can wait to the next time this group meets, and then you've had a chance to take a look at them. We didn't fail anybody, I don't believe, Matt.
No,
There's-
Lazat probably got the lowest because of all this window nonsense.
But a lot of the contractors expect to get a 96 or 97. And when you're at 50% of the way through the project, the way the system is set up is if they got an average score, they have a below average, an average score, an above average, and then something even better. So if they get an average score on every category, they only get an 80. So they only get a passing grade. So it's really hard to say to somebody, you've done a great job, but we haven't turned anything on yet. We don't know if it's working. All we can say is, all right, yeah, it seems pretty good. So we give them, maybe they get an 85, they get mostly average scores, maybe 1 or 2 categories they get above average. So they're not going to like it. But it's when things get turned on, if they work, then at the end of the project, you'll get a better score, but at least they know they're not in serious trouble of failing. So that's kind of the process that we have to go through, and we'll send that out through Steve, and he can distribute it to the group so you guys can take a look
He
at it.
does have it now. Also, we have to get somebody from the city to sign each one of these documents. And you guys have to decide whether it's going to be Mark Pellegrino, the mayor, or whomever. At some point, I'll have to walk around, and get them all signed.
I vote for the mayor.
I think the mayor has a much better signature than I do.
Andy's not here.
Okay.
Thanks,
Yeah, that's
Matt.
right. You miss a meeting, that's what happens. So I don't think we have to vote on that, correct? We can just have him do it, right?
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you want
Anything else,
that on
guys?
the next, Tim, do you want this on DQM thing on the next agenda for the subcommittee?
Well, I mean, I don't know that we can, if we send out the scores, maybe if just people have questions about it, but otherwise, there's really not much for you guys to do. You don't necessarily need to vote on it. It's just the city has to sign it. And if the mayor had any issues, I'm sure he'll ask questions.
Right, it's mainly sort of our opinion, if you will, based on, working closely with everybody. But you do have the right that if you looked at one particular and said, hey, why is he getting such a high score? You might question it, and we'll give you an answer or a low score. So that's what it's really for, just to make sure you're not uncomfortable with any one of them. Well, you just want to know more about why it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're at a pretty tight spread between some maybe like 81 for Lazat because we had some issues, to maybe an 86, 87. So nobody was in the 90s or in the mid 90s or anything, just because we're at 50%. So it's kind of too early to give them glowing reviews for work that's only half done.
If we send the scores out and somebody on this committee has a question, how do we handle that? Who do they contact back?
Well, they can reach out to us directly, or if you want to do it as a group, we certainly can.
Well, if we do it as a group, it's got to be at this meeting. We cannot have them respond to all. We could have issues of open meeting law violation. So it'd be better if my suggestion would be better you send it out, and then at the next meeting, if anybody has a question, they could ask. So you're doing it up front. So
I'd like to look at them.
Yeah, if we can do that, we'll just put on only any questions on the DQM scores. Is that DCAM? Is that DQM? Is that what it is?
DCAM.
Two M's.
AMM.
AMM.
Department of Capital Asset
Management.
Management and Maintenance.
Okay, I got it. We'll put that on, and once you give me the scores, I'll send them out, and then we'll just have it on.
You have them, Steve. I sent them to you last week.
I know. Well, would you resend them so I get the
I
correct?
will do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect. Anything else?
Yeah, the only thing I made a mistake, the next meeting will be May 4th, not March 2nd, May 4th. Yeah.
May the fourth be with us.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think we're all set.
I think we all owe Mr.
Move to
Hankinson
adjourn.
a round of gratitude for catching the fact at the very beginning of the meeting that we weren't recording, so we didn't have to re-record anything and replay anything. So thank you, Mr. Hankinson. Was somebody trying to say something?
Yeah, I said move to adjourn.
Excellent.
Second.
All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're not listening to you, but thank you very much. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Everybody.
Take care.